All right, so back to strategic thoughts for this week. And one of the key things that's come up this whole week, which we've seen from Teleperformance, which if you don't know what Teleperformance is, they are a French-based company that hires call center workers from all around the world, and they are being questioned about how they're choosing to monitor employees. Now, they're only monitoring employees that in meetings and training events where they're using a bit of software on their corporate machines that have been issued to them to see what they're doing, whether they're paying attention, whether they are, eating or leaving their desk during these events. Um, you know, and you can imagine with your workers working from home, that has caused some issues around security and privacy. Should you be monitoring your workers when they're at home and they are in a session? There's no talk yet of them actually monitoring their workers throughout their whole working day. I was gonna say 24/7, but around their whole working day. But that's the sort of thing that's being envisioned. In the US, where there isn't so much such strong data protection laws and a different attitude towards work, this is a bit more common, where you find organizations provide tracking software that uses AI to predict what their staff are doing at any particular time, that watches them through their web cameras, through keystrokes, to figure out whether they are performing or meeting their targets. Now, call centers, if anyone has ever worked or been with or around any sort of call centers, they are highly KPI and SLA driven, extremely tight ships, if you will. And they have regulations where you can't really step away from your desk. You have to pick up the phone within a certain amount of rings. You have to close a call within a particular time. You need to escalate it after particular things. It's very regimented, and it very much is the Turk in the machine, if you will, where where the what's it called, the automated Turk, where people are effectively acting and functioning like machines. And at some point, we want them to also act like humans and respond like humans, which is not permitted. So, thinking of it from a strategic side, I would say if you're trying to get humans to act and perform like machines, you should be thinking and looking at your R&D budget and see how much are you developing actual machines to do machine work. So, fair enough, you push and you develop your team to act very regimentedly, fair enough, but you should be pouring in a large amount of money and thinking, how can I automate these routine performances? How can I make them more human at this? Well, make them more functional, and at the same time, then allowing your human workers to be more human and give that value add to do the things which machines cannot do. If you're not investing in that side, but yet you're pushing your workers act more like machines, you are missing a massive opportunity. Beyond that, if you're planning to actually use these sort of tracking software and these sort of performance monitoring tools, I would be highly cautious. There are many cases across Europe where they're looking at companies that start to introduce these things and they are being called up and they're being fined. Whether those fines go through and they actually get their workers to, whether they actually get fined for the amount by the ECJ is another question. Here in the UK, I cannot see a scenario where the ICO and the courts actually take a case all the way through, because I don't see that as a priority for them. When you bring in regulation and you enforce regulation, it increases costs and it makes barriers higher for businesses. And due to the financial state of the country and attitude of the government, I just can't see them wanting to make this a priority at all. I can't see the ICO making this a priority to bring people down. But the real issue is about the ethics and how your business is seen. Nobody wants to work with an employer who's going to treat their staff that way and then monitor them at home. On the flip side, in your supply chain, would you want a supply like that in your supply chain? These are things which are not right. Now, at the moment, now we know that how we're in a post-COVID, post-Brexit world, so they're probably not going to push regulatory points as much. They're not going to fine as much possibly for these sorts of things. But rest assured, it will come back to bite you if you choose to invest or partner effectively with companies that deem it to be all right. There will come a time where there will be a case that will be raised where your workplace who is monitoring you during a particular event, and there are massive questions around, well, what happens if they capture your children? How do they handle that data? That then becomes sensitive data if they capture their images. What else might they see? If you get sacked for doing something in your home, there is all these implications around, well, where are those lines drawn? In the office, say if you work in the call center, you can't exactly leave to go for a water break. Or if you work in a warehouse or something similar, those very regimented jobs, you have to be very structured in what you do. But in your house, you should be expected to do those things. What I say when I'm at work or in other places is, when you're in the office, you are responsible for doing your job and taking care of yourself, but the business has cleaners. They have people who maintain the kitchen areas, people who do a whole range of things to maintain that office building around you to make it a safe and secure environment. In your home, you have to fulfill all those tasks as well as doing your work. And the reality is, time is finite. So if you're a business to assume that you must spend those 8 hours or 7 hours or however long your day is purely working and not leaving to put the dishwasher on or to sweep up some dirt or to do something like that, that is unfair, I would say. And the businesses that don't seem to appreciate that human element are missing where we're going at the moment with a lot of companies, where ethics and ideas and the culture is becoming just as important as the other aspects of the workplace. And these are things which you got to start thinking of in a more holistic fashion. Just giving somebody a wage is not good enough. You have to give them the work-life balance, and you have to yourself show that you're moving in the right direction. It is in the employee's rights to expect certain ethics and focus and almost a caring attitude from their organization. So that's where I'm saying strategically. Strategically this week is all about, think about what you're doing. Think about what you're investing in. If you want machines to do particular roles, or you want things that act like machines, invest in those machines. Think about why you are doing certain things. If you are putting lots of money into, or you're looking at great ideas or thinking, hey, I want to make sure my staff are hitting targets, or why are those targets really returning value? Should you be monitoring them in that way? Is it unfair for you then to say to your staff, hey, if you open this or you get that message or you view this element on your work machine, that's a sackable offense? If you're creating these barriers, you're most likely hoping to actually sack staff. That's what it almost feels like. So definitely think about where you're going. Think about the culture you want to build. Think about who would actually want to work with you and whether you want to work with them if you have a culture where it's far more structured and KPI driven, and you cannot go without logging in that you're taking a water break for 5 minutes and you're back on that time. Think about who you're going to get working for you and what your business will look like, and whether that's what you want to do going forward, because I would say that type of organization is limited in what it actually truly can achieve. And that is my strategic thoughts for this week.